Okay. Uh, so welcome to the field trip orientation workshop, um, sponsored by the Hampshire Bird Club. This is the first one we've probably ever have done since I've been a member for at least 15 years. Uh, and this is our great opportunity to encourage new field trip leaders, expand that, get people to say, yeah, I want to be a leader and I think I can do that. And what do I need to do? And so tonight we're delighted to have Bill Randolph, who has a history of doing natural history guiding out on the West Coast. And now he has moved to the East Coast, is semi-retired, but is busy doing a lot of guiding. And he has offered to share with us some orientation, some guidelines for you who want to be field trip leaders for the Hampshire Bird Club. Take it away, Bill.
All right. Thank you and welcome, everybody. I hope you have stayed cool today. It has been amazing. I wonder how the birds are doing. Hopefully there's plenty of bird baths and ponds for them. And thank you, Janice. I was in the Bay Area, and so in my youth, for about 15 years, I led natural history trips through Alaska, through Mexico, all through the West, and out to the Farallones, even down into Mexico. I even did a week-long pelagic trip 3 months after the Valdez oil spill. So that was in my youth. And then, of course, I got a real job, raised a couple of boys out here. I've been out here 27 years, and I'm a retired 7th grade teacher most recently, and going back to what I love, leading people in nature. And I found the Hampshire Bird Club is a great place to do that. And so when I was on the board temporarily filling in for someone, and they were talking about these trips are so popular, they're so important, we need to keep this going, but we're also nervous because how do we keep supporting our leaders? I said, I'm happy to do, what I'm calling Gathering of the Guides 1.0. This is a very beginning of sharing. Okay. So, oops, so it's really what this isn't is learning protocols and have-tos. It's really an opportunity for all of us as guides or people interested in becoming guides and leading field trips to share information, to make it so that we're all comfortable. We have similar messages for the Hampshire Bird Club, and we feel equipped. And the Hampshire Bird Club has tremendous supports for us out there. I find it so easy. And so I want to walk us through that. So it's about lessons learned today, feedback and ideas from everybody, strengthening our network as leaders, and expanding our impact, which includes accessibility, getting all types of people out here, and inclusivity, which is great about Hampshire Bird Club, and also fun. Okay. I'd love to hear and learn more about you. So let's do a quick introduction. How about if you say your name, town you live in, if you've led bird walks, how many, and something memorable from a bird walk, or what motivates you to want to lead walks. And all start. It's always good to model these. So Bill Randolph, I live in West Hampton, and I've probably done between 5 and 10 Hampshire Bird Club walks. And something memorable is taking them to a place and saying, let's not talk for 10 minutes. Let's just watch nature, and people being engrossed and enthralled at what's around them. That's my special memory. So Janice, I wonder if you can.
I'll go down the list that I see as I've signed in. So the first one is Kathy.
Good evening. It's Kathy Hour from Holyoke. And I have never led a formal group. It's usually friends and family. And the reason that I do it is because I want them to share the joy that I find out in nature.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. David Gross?
Hi, I'm Dave Gross. I live in Pelham. How many bird walks have I? I guess between 5 and 10 for the HBC. And I guess my motivation is that I like to contribute to the club and help the occasional person who maybe doesn't know it quite as much to learn about a new area.
Is Jack on that?
Okay, thanks, David. I'm also going to ask you all to mute your audio until you are being asked to speak. Linda Basilian. Now you have to unmute, Linda. All right, we'll catch her later. Patty Steinman. Or is it Jim? Is it Jim?
Yeah, it's me. Um, yeah, I have probably led 15 or so bird walks for the Hampshire Bird Club. And my favorite things is to bring people to new places that they can then go back on their own. So discovering new places with people and also introducing people to new birds that they've never seen before because they get so excited about it. So those are two of my favorite things. Oh, and
Thanks,
I
Jim.
live in East Hampton.
Marcia.
Marcia, I live in Florence. I've probably led, I don't know, maybe 10 bird walks for the bird club. Usually lead a couple a year. And I think kind of like Jim, my favorite thing is introducing people to places where I love to go birding that they may never have been. And also just the excitement of, somebody who sees a bird that they've never seen before or maybe didn't even know existed. And yeah, just the excitement that they have about that makes me happy.
Thanks, Marcia. Peggy?
Hi, Peggy. I'm from Florence also, and I recently led 2 bird walks, the first 2 that I've ever done for Hampshire Bird Club. And what made me want to do that is that I knew 2 places that not a lot of people ever go to, and I love them and just wanted to bring people there. And one of the most memorable things I've done watching birds is my first bird walk in 2004 that went out to the blind at Fitzgerald Lake at 4:30 in the morning. And it hooked me instantly.
Great, great. Thanks, Peggy. Laura?
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura, and I used to live in Florence, and now I've just moved up to Vermont, and I'm hoping to lead some Vermont trips for you guys. And I've led, I don't know how many bird trips I've led for the Hampshire Bird Club. I can't remember. What I really love about leading bird walks is that I learn so much from other people who are real experts in the field. And I love that sharing of information, the mystery of finding a bird that we're not sure about, and then hearing how others figure out what it is. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol Fournier. I live in Chicopee, Mass. And I have not led any Hampshire Bird Club field trips, but I've been at many of them and have so appreciated the openness, the friendliness, and how much I learn on any single walk. And so I'm really interested in helping people with that, and particularly with making sure our field trips and bird walks are accessible to folks with differing abilities. So and getting that information out through maps that say what resources are available at different trails. So it's easier for everyone to figure that out for themselves.
Great.
And I hope to, and Laura, maybe you want to help, but and Marcia might be interested to work on developing a field trip that goes during migration up to northern Vermont.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Ruth?
Hi, I'm Ruth Green. I live in Berkshire County. Sorry for my little dog, if you can hear her. But I'm also a member of the Hampshire Bird Club, and I led a field trip for the other HBC, Hoffman Bird Club, this summer, and or actually spring, and really enjoyed it, and seemed to me that the people who went had a good time. I've learned a tremendous amount from field trip leaders in the few years that I've been birding, which is 3 years. And I'd certainly like to be able to give back to people, what they have so generously given me.
Thanks, Ruth. Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm live in Florence. I have not led any bird walks, but I am a new member of the field trip committee this year. So I figure probably at some point down the line, I will be happy to lead or co-lead a walk. So I think this is great.
Thanks, Katie. Lisa?
Hi, Lisa McDaniels. I live in East Hampton. I'm a fairly new member of the club and new to this area as of 2021. I've never led a field walk with HBC, but I'll just echo what everyone else is saying. I have nothing really to add other than I would probably like to get started as a co-leader. So, maybe this is a mentoring opportunity for someone who'd like to take that on.
Great, Lisa, thanks. Leslie?
Hi, I'm Leslie. I live in Florence. I'm going to echo what Lisa said. I learned a lot. I've led probably, I don't know, between 5 and 10 bird walks for the Hampshire Bird Club. I learned a lot from co-leaders and was lucky enough to be part of a bird walk in which I was working with someone who was blind. And that was sort of an extraordinary experience, being a leader for someone.
Thanks, Leslie. Brian?
Hi, I'm Brian Zillick. I live in Ware and I've led 3 or 4 walks for HBC now. Something memorable is a couple of weeks ago, I led a trip with Julie Blue, and it rained the whole time, but we had someone with us who was it was their 3rd day birding, and they were so excited to be out there, even in the rain. And we saw some great birds. We had a yellow-billed cuckoo calling, and there was an osprey with a fish getting chased by an eagle. So there was some excitement there, and that was very memorable.
Sounds great, Brian. Steve?
Hey everyone, Steve. I live with Leslie in Florence. Maybe led 8 or 10 walks, and what motivates me is to someday be able to get people as interested and passionate about birding as walk leaders like Scott and Laura and Jim and Derek have done for me.
Thanks, Steve. Donnelly?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Donnelly Bertali and I live in Holyoke, and I have led 0 trips for the Hampshire Bird Club, but I've been on a few. And I love to travel for field trips and just even around this area, the DIY trips and also farther afield. I like the social aspects of it. I like learning. I like teaching others. I think that's a great thing about birding is that you can be really expert or you can be really new, and we can all live in the same ecosystem and learn from each other. And so I'm excited to bring the passion.
Thanks, Donnelly. Scott? While Scott figures out how to unmute his thing, we'll go back to Linda and Blaze Basilian.
There?
Okay, Scott, go for it.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thought I unmuted it. I'm Scott, and I've led not in the last couple of years, not a lot of trips for the Hampshire Bird Club, but over the years, and I do a lot for the Hitchcock Center. So, and like everybody else said, it's just it's fun when you get new people seeing, their first scarlet tanager or something like that, and it really lights. You can see them; their face lights up. So that's a lot of fun.
Thanks, Scott. Linda and Blaze?
Yes, hi, this is Blaze sitting in for Linda. She will watch this later. I myself have been a bird noticer or bird watcher for 70 years, I believe, maybe 71. During that time, I have never led a bird walk, but I have been on many, 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 and I've never been on one that I did not enjoy immensely and from which I did not learn something new. However, our main purpose in checking in here tonight is we are sending this to our grandson in North Carolina. He's in his mid-20s, And we were hoping he could tune in, but we've just learned that he's on business in Canada or something. And we consider him a rising star in the bird world and a born leader. And so what we're really doing is inspiring 2 generations back to become our future birdwalk leaders.
That's great.
I
Great.
hope that works out.
Great,
And-
Blaze.
Okay.
And I'll just tell you, I'm Janice Jorgensen. I have co-led a lot of trips. That's my preference, is always to be working with somebody else. Yeah, the smiles and looks on people's faces, they learn something new or see a new bird or learn a fact about a bird is worth it all. So I'm delighted to be participating in this. Okay, Bill, I think we've covered everybody.
That was fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. And I have parallels with what everybody said about the excitement, enthusiasm, and spark of getting people going, especially in new places they can return to. Let's just look at why people come out on our walks. It's new places, like many of you just said, and here we live in a beautiful place. We've got to get them out. And it is a treat. And also it's really safe. They come out and they're with a group of people, and yet, fairly rural and maybe very wild, certainly to improve their birding skills by sight and certainly by song these days. And that social interaction. There's so many lifelong learners. And I also find that people want to share as well as learn. So I'm always learning, and that's part of the fun for sure. Who comes on our walks? Well, of course, it's mostly members, and sometimes they're friends, and also newbies to the area. I've met a lot of people from the San Francisco area, which has been fun for me. And again, it's the whole gamut, from people with canes that are, it's not easy for them to get up on some of these trails. But a lot of first timers for sure, as well as very skilled, and people that are way beyond my own skill level, especially when it comes to hearing and identifying by sound. I find that there's people that are tracking hotspots, they're listening with eBird, they're exploring birdcast and the migration in spring and fall, and again, birding by ear. And Merlin has really changed the way we bird watch, which has been fun. I was on the board temporarily, just filling in for somebody, and one of the things that kept coming up was, these field trips are so popular, and they started a new field trip committee, and they have just been amazing support for me as a field trip guide. So, what they need is really accurate write-ups for us and level of accessibility. And again, like people are saying, I would love to stretch what we're doing now to include all abilities. And Carol Fournier brought my attention to birdability.org, which is through Audubon. They have a very inspiring 4-minute video I would love people to go to. They also have a crowdsourced map that they're developing about, it's kind of checklisted on, you could bring people, wheelchairs here or different places. So that's definitely worth checking out. And the question of leading and co-lead, for a lot of you that are just starting, maybe you've participated a lot, definitely co-lead with somebody. And this is part of tonight's goal, is to figure out how we're going to create this network so we can mentor others, or you can see different styles. And when you're comfortable, lead for sure. That leading on your own or with somebody else is kind of about your own comfort zone and thinking about the quality of the experience for other people. Are you in a lake and it's easy to have lots of people looking through spotting scopes, or are you in a narrow trail and you're always moving, stopping and listening, and you're trying to pass information on to people? It can be tricky. So, think about all those different parts of your trip. Through the participant's perspective, our description is everything. It is so important that we know where we're going and scout it. Directions are my nemesis, because Google sometimes takes people on a wild goose chase. So we'll talk more later, but sometimes you have to do a meeting spot and then carpool somewhere because there isn't much accessibility. Or if there's multiple stops and it's complicated, or a stop at a restaurant, I would really encourage sending a follow-up email to your participants. And really, ideally, include your own contact info, email and phone, and be responsive to those calls before the field trip, because people might be panicking about whether they have the ability and they don't want to single out or slow down the group. So that's really important. And the phone is so important too, because as my nemesis, which is directions and people getting lost, is best, it just happens. Having my phone on can make the difference for somebody. I'd love to do a quick reflection. And so in the chat, or share a brief story, what's made you a better leader, or what do you think the attributes are of a good leader? So I'm wondering if we could do that in not too long a time. So send us something in the chat. I hope you know how to do that. And or you can click on the thumb or raise your hand and tell us a brief story. What makes a good leader? What are the attributes of a good leader? It sounds like most of everyone here has been on multiple trips.
We have some comments already coming in. Donna Lee talks about it, that the person is a good listener.
Yep, good.
Anyone besides Donna Lee, please write something in the chat for us.
Being a good listener, I would just want to add that it's always good to assess your group and just, how is everybody doing? Or could you hear me? Could you hear that bird? Could you see that bird? And then be responsive along the trail. And I always tell people, if you're frustrated, don't wait till the end to come up and tell me. Come up, and whisper in my ear and tell me, how we can make this trip better. It's their trip. So I can appreciate that comment.
Okay, here's some more comments from Jim. Connecting with the audience and being aware of the group dynamics as you proceed. Carol talks about having a sense of humor. Remember that not everybody pace the same way. Some are slower walkers. Make sure you do a clear intro at the beginning. Encourage questions. Being able to address everyone in the group, regardless of their birding level, which is not always easy. David talks about a good leader can communicate. I've been on a Monhegan trip with both a great leader and a not so great leader. The difference was the ability to interact with the group for the great leader. That was the difference. And Laura talks about welcoming each person as they arrive at the beginning of the walk. Review trail conditions, length of the walk. I think you mean time frame. The overall plan, where bathrooms are if available. And Kathy says, I always enjoy when the leader lets the group puzzle out what a bird is rather than just blurting out the name. Thanks.
Yes, those are great. Those are awesome. And it'll be a little redundant, but some of those are going to show up.
And there's one more, Bill, there's one more
Good.
comment. There are a couple more. Is a good leader is attentive to all participants and their abilities, gives information about the birds being seen and heard rather than just naming the bird and moving on. And letting people know, Carol says, if there are benches to places to sit along the way.
Like that. Good. Excellent. Great comments. And I will touch on those. Let's keep going. Thank you so much. I want to just go through my thinking process. So for the experts, for the veterans, it's this, go get a cup of iced tea right now. But if you're thinking about leading a trip and you haven't, this might be helpful. It's kind of the steps that I go through. All right. So getting prepped. If I have a bird walk coming up in a few days, here's what I do. Before the trip, I reread my description because, sometimes a month goes by and you forget, or you might promise something. Scout the directions as best you can, and scout them the way you wrote them up in your description. Also go to your place and look for highlights, look for challenges, bring a pad of paper, write some field notes, find some teachable moments. What was it that was that theme of yours, and maybe kind of highlight that. Route options are really important. I always ask people, you know, are you flexible today, or we definitely have to leave at noon? And so you just never know. Sometimes the birds are amazing and you don't go more than a quarter mile. Sometimes you do 2 miles, but having some route options is good. And I'd love to tell you about a free app called Gaia, which if you go explore and you hit record, it will show you as a star and overlaid on trails, and you can record that. And it will give you distance and how long and elevation, things like that, which you can use in your description. Also, if you go scout with a recording of Gaia and then you have your group and you're all distracted, you don't have to record again. It will just naturally show you where your star is in relation to the trail that you did before and recorded. And it has really helped me. Because some of these places have a lot of different intersections, and you're busy, or you might tell a group, hey, I'll meet you at that intersection. And, you know, if you're a little confused, you look at your Gaia and it can save you. And it's a teachable moment. People love it. I always bring printed copies. So of the trails, participants' contact info, pen, extra copies of the waiver, first aid, and some extra seasonal supplies, water in the summer, and maybe some extra gloves and hats in the winter. They're in my car anyways. People need these things because they don't always show up prepared, right? Meeting the group, you're going to show up 15 to 20 minutes early. And I want us to brainstorm. What are some things, some activities you might do in those 15 or 20 minutes? And what are some topics? So again, put stuff in the chat, or if you feel like sharing, go ahead and do that. So I'm asking you, you showed up 15 or 20 minutes before your official start. What are some things you can do as people arrive? Okay, so think about that.
This is Janice. One of the things that I suggest that leaders bring is one field guide. Not everybody wants to use an app. And for some people, looking at it in a book is better.
Good.
Okay, I think everyone's thinking what they're going to write.
Anybody want to, maybe it's a tough question, but I'll give you a couple minutes. You've got 15 or 20 minutes while your group is showing up. What are some activities you could do, or some topics that you could cover, which would prepare people before you leave your cars in the comforts of everything else and you start your bird trip? I'll give it another minute.
Okay, they're starting to come in. Have arriving people share their favorite bird or birding experience. The basics of using a binoculars. Introductions to yourself, a member of HBC, if you birded with HBC, but the introductions. Laura talks about having field guides available to discuss pros and cons, maybe a few pairs of different types. Somebody else mentioned maybe a few different types of binoculars if you're lucky, and showing people birding apps.
Good.
Carol talks about the types of birds that the group might encounter. If someone is keeping a list, who is keeping a list, share with the participants. What season are we in for birds? Nesting, mating, migration, and types of behavior we could be looking for. Might be another time to talk about being a member of HBC.
Love it. Excellent. Fantastic. What a list. Comprehensive. Here's what I just put down, and your list is much better than mine, but facilitate parking, checking people off that roster, making sure they sign the waiver, soliciting question, reminding folks what they will need. They depend on you for those reminders of what to put in their backpack. And the soliciting questions is important because do that while they're arriving as opposed to in your orientation. So hold on, let me go to my car, and it keeps that momentum moving. Adjusting binos or spotting scopes, places you birded, you mentioned, and all those field guides and all that stuff. Talking about Birdcast and what showed up, or those neat charts. people you start the teaching right there. I always give people a heads up. We're going to start in 5 minutes. We'll make a circle. Okay. And then we bring ourselves together. Now, people have already been standing around for 15 minutes. So be succinct. If you want, have an outline. Morning, let's circle up, bring people together. I always do some quick yes or no's just to kind of get the juices flowing. So there's some little quick yes or no's. HBC first walk, maybe a highlight, who's been to this location, and then a prompt is fun. You know, something about not a yes or no, because you want them to actually answer something. And so, and I always go first, again, to model, because some people are really nervous talking in front of people they don't know. So, you know, and, you know, I've heard some good ones, you know, Nemesis Warbler, why you love birding, favorite spring arrival, you know, bird you're looking for, what part of birding is difficult. So anyways, those are fun. They're just icebreakers, and they get everybody relaxed and already as a group, which is so important. And then they're willing to share on the trail or as things progress. Who are we? Of course, maybe you want to talk about us. And so we are this all volunteer based 40-year-old organization, which to me is amazing. And we always need volunteers, and we always need money. And we have fun, and we're inclusive, and it sounds like with all of you as leaders and guides, you know, we want to even stretch out who it is we can attract and get everyone birding, which you can count me in on that. Of course, you want to talk briefly about what you expect today, why you chose this, what's unique. And about your style too. Like, I'm going to say, hey, I would love it if you don't give away the bird name until everybody has seen it and talked about a characteristic. Because for beginning birders, just to hear a name is nothing. Unless, of course, you have a field guide out and they're making some connection. And again, asking for those, if they're flexible, end times, because you have to think about that and keep track of that. It's really polite and fair to these people. If you're running late, people, and they have they're not flexible, they're like, oh well, I'll just go on my own, and here you are in the middle of nowhere, and that's not fair. So you just kind of keep communicating. Okay, everybody, the birds have been amazing, so we're not going as far as I thought, or I put in my write-up, but this is what we're going to do today. And even if you have to backtrack, it's always different because it's birding. All right. And I always say to people, again, share, if you have a concern or frustration, just come talk to me immediately. All right. Quick things on safety and logistics. You've scouted that trail, you know where the poison oak is, or if the ticks are bad, or where the trail junctions are. Sometimes people want to go ahead of you, and you might say, hey, stop at the yellow trail junction. Okay, we'll meet you there. And I always say, okay, we're leaving with 12 people. Let's go. And of course, I have my contact info, my map, and we're off. Okay, here's another brainstorm for everybody. What are some strategies that will help participants have a positive experience? Okay, what do you think are some strategies you could put in place during your walk that are going to help participants have a positive experience? Okay, and some of these.
I have a question.
Yeah, Scott.
Backing up ever so slightly, you said waivers. Now, I was under the impression, and I could be outdated myself, but my impression with waivers were only needed for overnight trips for HBC. Now, is this a new policy that everybody coming on just a morning bird walk needs to sign a waiver?
Well, Scott, I'll try, and I know there's field trip folks here that would, give a complete definition. But I think when people sign up online, they have already signed this waiver online, and that kind of gives, HBC, so we are not liable.
Oh, I understand that. But
right. So
years ago,
yeah,
we didn't require, and again, this might be updated and I'm out of date, but we didn't require people to be club members to come on field trips. I'm morning field trips, not overnight trips.
Right.
So is that changed?
Well, I think people can come on, like a member might bring a friend and they haven't signed the waiver because I think it's an online process. That's my understanding. So I wonder if Katie, someone in education or the field trip committee could clarify or extend what I was saying.
So this is Marcia. What we've done in the past is to try to have trip leaders bring a copy of the waiver. So if somebody shows up that hasn't registered online and automatically sign the waiver, they can just sign it there and then we can download it onto our field trip committee site. Just so that, if somebody shows up and they haven't signed the waiver, we don't have to turn them away. We can say, okay, just, sign here and then good to go.
So Scott, I think the answer to your question too is that yes, even for a 2-hour morning bird walk, everybody is signing a waiver.
Okay, because that's
Yeah.
I did not know that, because years ago it was just, I mean, yes, when people signed up to become a member, everyone signed one and most people have it, but we never kept people away if on a 2-hour bird walk if they weren't a member. We wouldn't, turn them away.
Scott, my understanding, this is Janice, is that non-members are participating in field trip led HBC walks. Is that true, Marcia, right? They are allowed to come.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So they just have to sign the waiver, Scott.
But we never had again, we never brought waivers on for 2-hour walks.
We do now.
Yeah, that is a new policy apparently.
Okay.
Is that form something we can print off the website?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Scott, thank you for bringing it up.
And the other thing is, I believe when you join, if you join online, you are signing it then in that sign up time. Am I correct, Marcia?
Yes. I can tell you because I just came off being membership chair.
Okay.
Whatever, secretary. There was some discrepancy about the it's a hold harmless. And the discussion was around if only some people are signing it, it was inconsistent. So if only some people are signing it and others aren't, why have the policy at all? So then it was decided that we should add it to the online signups. And so it is there when you join as a member, and it's automatically checked to yes. You have to check yes, and that just says that you do it. But when you sign up for a field trip online, it's also there. So somebody who's not a member signs up, they've already done it. Marcy, I'm not sure if it's available on our website in the public domain. So that's something that we could check into though and make it available. I don't know that it's something that you would necessarily have in like the resources section for the public.
Yeah, I know that I printed some out and I can't remember where I printed them off.
Marcia, I had created copies for printouts to send to leaders. So if anyone's ever a new leader, then they will definitely get a copy if they wanted to print a few. So the point of having everyone register online is they're going to catch everyone. So really the only reason you would have to need a paper copy with you is if someone didn't register online and they just showed up. So that's the only reason the paper copy would be needed, because everyone else is caught with the online registration already having signed it.
Right.
You good, Scott?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And again, it's part of why we're doing this tonight is to answer those questions, because 40 years and there's been a lot of change. And okay. Oh, I wanted to go back. Do you have anything? What's something you want to think about through the eyes of your participants? What's going to help them have a positive experience? You're their guide or co-guide.
Getting on the bird, helping people get on the bird.
Yeah, definitely.
I sometimes have paired people up with somebody who I know is a newer birder with somebody who's more experienced.
Yeah. That works. I'll give people a minute. If you don't mind, just put something in the chat. What's something that you could do to help participants have a positive experience?
Kathy talks about the leader's enthusiasm is a real must. Bring cookies, especially homemade ones.
I like it.
That looks like what we've had so far.
All right, sounds good.
Oh, we have a couple more. I'm sorry. One is walking at a pace where all the participants can stay together and not having large gaps where the leader is far ahead from some of the participants, and noticing everyone, not just the ones up front.
Good, good.
And then one more, keeping the group together. Sometimes everyone gets spread out and only a few people get to see a bird. And Lisa mentions talking about a learning curve. You were a beginner once, remember that. And Echo being sure that everyone gets on the bird, if possible, and checking in, did everyone get on the bird, and keeping the group small so you can effectively interact with all the participants.
Excellent, really well done. And I have here modeling your expectations in your style that you introduced yourself as, right? As I want to get everyone on that bird, or if you can't hear me, let me know. And then when you get out on that trail, if you see something that's happening that you know is going to help that group gel, positive reinforcement, pointing out that specific behavior that somebody did. And then again, I always get frustrated too when you get stretched out, whether I'm a participant or a leader. So use stops. Oh, this is a great place to look and listen for birds. And then everybody comes together. Or, oh, I want to point out these native trees here because this is perfect for, foraging birds. And it just brings people in. And then asking frequently, ask and assess. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me back there? Can I bring bring a book, bring a phone, and have some screenshots, things like that. And I love to do this. I don't always do this, but if you finish on time or maybe there's 3 people that, are new to the club and they're enthusiastic and they want to hang out, you can ask them, hey, what was your favorite takeaway? And also checking in if people want to be emailed the eBird list or any other of these other announcements that are on the bottom there. Next trip, events coming up, anything that we can get people involved, telling people about our great club. Okay, good. All right. This is the end of my presentation, but I would, this was a brainstorm for all of us to get together to, think about how we support one another, how we move people in their comfort zone and getting started. We need more trail guides and people leading bird walks. So will you write down, or let's have a discussion about how do we support one another, whether you're a veteran or a newbie, what are your needs? We need to know what they are to help you move forward. And we talked about expanding, our people that are maybe challenged physically, and how do we get that going? How do we expand our audience? How do we have a bigger impact? So that's pretty open-ended. And I'd love it if people have a final thought. And we'll put some things together, and that's going to be our brainstorm for the next time we come together as a group of guides. And maybe it'll be veterans, and maybe it'll be new guides, or maybe we'll be out in the field and we'll be modeling this stuff. Whatever you think is going to work for you, we want to implement that. So however, if you want to put it in the chat, or we can just have a discussion, that anything is great.
I was going to ask about eBird, and I love when the leader says, I'm going to eBird this, give me your address. Or that frees me up as especially in the learning phase, it frees me up to really pay attention to whatever I'm being taught or shown or whatever. And is that something that you're encouraging everybody to do and to learn how to do?
I am personally, and often I'll ask one of the participants. There's so many good birders, somebody else is already doing it. Sometimes they do it with pencil and paper and we talk about it at the end. But it's so easy to do. And also on the info sheet, I believe we have emails, so it's not even a big deal. So I love that. And people, I agree, people appreciate that as well.
Donnelly, this is Janice. You know, the Ed committee, we could do another few workshops on eBird. I mean, there's two ways on eBird. There's if you do it on the app, and then lots of people prefer taking notes and they want to go and do it at home and do it on their website. So if you think that would be helpful, we can do that.
I think that was my second note that I had made to myself, was some co-learning sessions with the education group, because I got when I was doing membership, I would sometimes get, hey, can you send me some information about how to buy binoculars and or how to use, but you know, I know it's not a membership thing, but it was like an address that people had. So I was like, gave them Jim Lafley's email address. Not really, I'm just kidding, but but there are those kinds of things that either could be recorded and in the resource section of the website that we can point people to, or they could be education sessions. I know that Scott did a really great session on sparrows that somebody had told me about, and I went and looked at that at the beginning of the season and refreshed myself on sparrows, and I didn't know Scott. I had never met him. It was in the middle of the pandemic and I was new. It was fantastic. So there's sort of resources for new birders and
Really good. Yep. And like Birdcast and all kinds of different. Yeah. And things that you can just transfer and use them out in the field, and people really appreciate learning about them. So good suggestion.
I would like to mention that on next week on Thursday, the 27th at 6 p.m., Birdability is offering a workshop. It's free. You just have to register to get the link on leading accessible bird outings.
Carol, are they talking about physical accessibility, or are they including blind birders?
All accessibility, including neuro differences, blind,
okay,
physical, which, you know, a lot of disabilities are not seen. So, and some recent research, because it's part of my specialty, on birding and bird song in particular, is extremely good for reducing depression and anxiety. And so there's lots of great information on the Birdability website. And I know we just touched on a few things here, but I think that there are a lot of things we could do in terms of descriptions, and I just was thinking there are lightweight portable chairs, like tripod chairs you can get. And I thought, well, maybe that would be a merchandise item for the club, you know, to have. Some of them are fairly inexpensive. And so, and even to have them available to have one or two on a trip, you know, that people can pick up and bring with them in case someone needs one, just like we do with binoculars. Thank you for the link. Someone just put the link in the chat.
I put the link to the Birdability workshop in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice.
Yeah, and everybody should go there and watch their 5-minute video. It's really inspiring. It's excellent. It'll make you want to get out and, you know, expand, you know, how and where you lead. Yeah, different trips.
Well, and how you think about where you're going to lead, like what might be easy for someone, you know, and what might be really, really challenging for another person because of any kind of limitations. So maybe that's a different kind of educational workshop, Janice.
Okay.
That the club could do for the club.
A couple more things that have come up in the chat, as one was talking about publicizing maybe more information about the trips back in the newsletter. Uh, uh, and they often generate people, oh, I didn't know about that place, and then they want to sign up for that. The other is from Laura, is having more stationary birding field trips or beginner birding field trips, trips where maybe more specific, trying to identify as many birds as you can in a certain time frame in a certain area, and other terms might be a more intense bird walk. But looking at that variation, not like this walk is for everybody doing everything. Focusing on behavior, focusing on it's a family, focusing, can you see the male and the female? Who was singing? Was it the female singing, or were you only looking for the male? Another thing Donna asked is, would that be, I don't know if the birdability is being recorded. Usually they are, Donna, but don't know. Not sure what you meant by an Amazon link, but
That was
you
for
can tell-
should we carry the tripod seats in the retail store? And I was just saying, maybe we could just provide a link to where to get.
I agree. I have one of those tripods. They're great. They're great. And the other is, do we have evaluations on trips? And do we rate our trips? Do we get feedback from participants? How did it go? Did it meet the expectations from what was said? And that's most of it.
Good.
Janice, there is a question about how do we interact with the website to set up a trip and
Oh,
facilitate
yes.
registration. So anyone who has an idea about a trip they want to do can send it to the field trip committee, and we will work with you on, making sure all the information that we want in the description is there, and facilitate the registration for that.
Can you put the field trip committee email address in the link in the chat?
Okay.
Janice, I had put a question in about whether or not we rate our trips or somehow code them based on ability. I see the AMC does their hikes, like they do, easy, moderate, strenuous. Are these,
Yeah. Yes, we did that. We always have easy, moderate, or strenuous. It's in the coding when you do the description. It's at the very end, but also in the description you put more detail about how easy it is or how difficult it is. So you put that in the description as well. That's what we've always encouraged people to do in the past.
Is that still happening, Marcia, in the descriptions?
Yeah, I think it is yeah.
And can I just clarify, is it easy to access then those codes and how they translate? Easy means this and hard means
Yes, it was in the newsletter. We'd
Right.
list all the field trips. At the end of the field trip description for each field trip, there would be an E, an M, or an S. And down below, there was what the E, M, and S meant.
Awesome. Thank you.
Does that help you, Donna Lee?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what Carol was talking about with the different kinds of abilities that you might say that this one would be appropriate for someone who has, sight, abilities or that kind of thing. So, and I don't know if that's telegraphs through easy or if you would, I don't really know enough about it, but I was just thinking like people who have, somebody mentioned like walking with a cane or, that kind of thing, is wheelchair, et cetera. Like going to Fort River might be good for people with wheelchairs, for instance.
Right. We did a number of birdability walks years ago, and we also did some birdability sits. And one of them was at Skinner, and you can get up onto the porch at Skinner fairly easily. But it's more of a sighted trip. You'd need, because we're hawk watching up there. And so it isn't appropriate for everybody, but you can get up there fairly easily if you have physical issues. And then we did some sits at in South Hadley and at Arcadia, and then we did some walks at Fort River.
Yeah.
I believe the Birdability website has a checklist, Donnelly, too. I haven't spent much time there, but there's a checklist that helps you kind of analyze and figure out the site that you're thinking about versus, you know, which kind of accessibility it would support. But I again, I need to learn more about it as well. I was thinking for begin. Oh, I just wanted to go ahead, Carol.
I mean, I wonder if we add a code to the descriptors that is an A for accessibility.
And we just have to define then what that
what type of accessibility that means. Because I mean, I've been to some of the birdability workshops now, and I wasn't thinking as broadly as they're speaking. And so I think that having some sort of a piece, and having been on bird walks, I'm recovering from double knee surgery. And before that had a lot of limitations in terms of walks. And some of the biggest issues are the speed of the walk, you know, and getting left behind, or any accessibility to sit, like to have a break and sit. And some Audubon locations have accessible things like wheelchairs, but someone would have to push the person. Often they aren't motorized. So in looking at a field trip site, it could be to just know that, like, oh, there is access. Or for people who are blind at Arcadia, there are roped accessibility trails, and there are ramps everywhere for those trails. So they're extremely accessible, but not all trails are like that.
Bray Lake has some nice accessibility trails too, above the pond. That would be maybe a place we could think about.
What did you say?
Bray Lake, which is
Bray
on
Lake.
Mount Tom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that lake. Yeah.
I was just thinking too, for people that were just beginning to, you know, lead their first trip or two, you know, advertise it as for beginners, and it takes that pressure off of you of who's going to show up. You know, just put in the description, this is for beginners. And you know, it's a good place to start. Take the yourself.
We also have questions about, do we have binoculars, loaner binoculars, and how does a leader get them? You know, Donnelly, you might explain your question more than what I just said.
I was just wondering, you know, a club that I would belong to before had a bunch of binoculars. I think that they had gotten them through a grant or something, but you know, you could do an old bin buyback. Like I have 2 extra pairs, I know, in my car. So in case somebody, like emergency binoculars, I call them. But we could solicit the membership if they have binoculars to donate if we don't already have that. And
we have 10 pairs of binoculars that are brand new.
Oh, okay.
And
cool, awesome.
we've gone the trip of people donating their binoculars.
Yeah.
And they've often been very problematic for the users.
So if people want
we
to
have
borrow
10 brand new
binoculars-
pair. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, if people want to borrow binoculars, I have a bunch and Derek has a bunch.
Okay, great.
So we can just put the, for field trip leaders, just put our emails or do education workshop or whatever. But we have loaners and they are, as Jim said, they're new and they're good.
Could we get a list of the loaners we have? Like we have 5 Vortex Bantams, 2
Yeah, I can
and
send, I can,
whatever, so that the leaders know what we have. Donnelly, I want to go back to your question on, you know, if you don't want them, here's my thing. If you don't want those binoculars, they're probably not that great. But maybe they are of a brand that we can send them back and get them refurbished. Vortex Eagle Eye will do that, all right? And they literally, it's no cost to send them there, and it's no cost to receive them back. So if you have ones like that, or we put out a solicitation saying if you have older Vortex or older Eagle Eye, because that's one company I know what they will do with the binoculars. Others say they have guarantees, but I'm not that familiar with them.
Yeah, I'm not thinking, so I wasn't thinking of the like 1970s, you know, those big, huge glasses that my dad had or whatever, but I have old Nikon Monarchs and I just upgraded my binoculars, so I have two extra
Okay.
pairs.
And Nikon might be one of those that will take them back and clean them up.
Yeah, they're very good beginner binoculars, I think.
Let us have them. I know we could use them. Monocs are good.
I'll give you one pair. I'm gonna keep my other.
Okay, yeah, I keep an extra one in the car.
Anyways, we're getting a good list that's going to support one another in leading trips and having resources for people, and accessibility we have definitely talked about. And now we have, a good group of people that showed up tonight and a strong network. We have some sense of who's veterans and who's enthusiastic to get started, which has been, I think it was very productive. Is there any other comments people want to make that would just help this network grow and think about the next meeting or resources we put together?
How can we know who is on this call, who is a potential co-leader for us or other field trip leaders? Where will this list of people be placed?
Well, maybe it could go in a document and it could go to all leaders and it would say interested in co or want a mentor, or, maybe we could just some way distinguish what we need and what we're willing also to do to help others.
So our field trip committee already has a document like that going. So with contact information and everyone, so we can certainly add all the new people here. And the field trip committee will just, get in touch as a sort of feeler, and if a person's not interested at the minute, that's fine, but we'll keep your name on there. And because we're going to be starting to get our groups together, for the fall.
And how does one of us here have access to see who is on that list? I want to contact somebody.
We can send that to you from the club. It's in a Google Drive right now, but if you want that list, then we can certainly send that to you.
I think if we send it to, is everybody here interested in having a copy of who was on to know?
Oh, well, we probably wouldn't send the entire document to every single person, but the field trip committee has that.
But I'm saying to these people here who want to be field trip leaders, to know who else. I'm just saying, share it with us.
We're going to send a link to the recording of this so we can add.
Okay, that'd be great.
Everyone who attended just this workshop in that email.
Okay.
If that
Derek
helps.
is saying something about, to clarify what you mean, Derek. If he's still.
I was just suggesting putting that on the website rather than sending it via email.
We need to make sure everybody wants their information on the website, public.
Yeah, why wouldn't you just send the list to the people that attended this session? So we know who everybody is and how to get in touch with them. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to do, is create a group of people that are willing to do field trips, and who else is out there that is in that group. I don't think it needs to go to the whole club, or I don't think it needs to go on the website, just to each other.
Yeah, I think
List to
it
each
does
other.
need to come back to the field trip committee, I think, is because we're keeping that entire list. We have a lot more people on our list than we have just in this meeting. So we're going to add everyone to that.
If they aren't here today, Katie, can they still be a leader?
Yeah, if everyone's here today, we have all your emails. So the field trip committee can certainly send an email to each one of you and kind of
No, people who signed up and aren't here.
Oh, yes. Yep. We have their info too. Yeah, that's why we have people register, so we can send that information to them as well.
And they can be a leader, even though they didn't show up.
Yeah, I think the point is to have the recording is to have people watch this just to get
an
idea. Yep.
That was my clarification. That was the real, sounds great.
Good. Any other closing comments? Last thoughts that you can offer up.
I have something just real quick. Yeah, I was just thinking that, the field trip leaders often will write up a small report of the trip after the trip has finished. And I wonder if the field trip leaders could also, to the other field trip leaders, like in this group, for example, talk about what worked really well on the trip and what were some challenges. And I think that could help to keep this conversation going of how to improve. So it's just, and it could be just be bullet points or something. I don't know. Just a thought.
That's a good one. So it sounds like we're going to get a list of all the field trip leaders. Everybody's going to get a copy of that. And Leslie, you're going to put together all the binoculars that we have and the amount and what they are, and send that to all the leaders and how to access those. Correct? She'll do it. I know she okay, she's done it in the past. Is there anything else that we needed to go back out? I mean, I don't know if we're talking about, somebody mentioned evaluations or feedback. That's up to the field trip committee to decide if that's what they want to do, I guess.
Good. Okay, well, I want to thank everybody. If this is time, for your time, enthusiasm, and creativity for, coming up with all the sharing that we had here and moving forward as a network of field trip leaders. And so if there's more that, you're thinking of later, I'm sure just send it to the field trip committee or the education committee, and we'll create a network of field trip leaders that can, pay attention. And I love the idea too of working on different skills and things that you can take out in the field. I'm happy to do any follow-up as well, especially out on a field trip. So hope to see you out there. Janice, is there any closing?
No, I thank you very much for everybody for participating and entering your stuff in the chat. A couple things that we'll look at for the Ed Committee is Birdcast and eBird, whether on the web or in the app, as workshops. Even Merlin, because there are things on Merlin that people are like, oh, I didn't know that I could do that. If there are any others, please send it to the Ed Committee. Or to any of us on the Ed Committee, and we can include them. And it's not like, well, it has to be a numbers game. There has to be so many before we do it. We can just do it. So thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay cool for the rest of the week, and we'll see you again.
Thank
Happy
you.
Friday.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Bill.